How's it going, guys? It's going to be your master guide to the Green Goblin trial event. In this video, I'm going to break down the teams I use and a one mega team I do suggest people invest in if they're struggling with the city villain section, which will also carry over into other sections. We're going to talk about the packs, how they impact nodes, which ones you may or may not want to have equipped, and then we're going to get into some gameplay where I will break down the kill order, how I approach each node, we'll show the teams that I suggested in action, and most importantly, how to build cooldowns in between nodes to make sure you're ready for the challenges presented to you. All that and more. I hope you enjoy this video. Before we get into that though, a word from today's sponsors, Into the AM. I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Into the AM. You guys know I've been partnered with Into the AM for a very long time. In fact, they're one of the first sponsors of this channel, and that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. If you've watched any of my streams or videos, you know I'm always rocking Into the AM merch. In fact, I like them so much, I have them as a permanent structure in the stream and in the videos. Right now, Into the AM is having a killer sale, so from November 10th to the 30th, they have a 30 to 80% off site-wide sale. And if you use promo code DORKY, you'll get an additional 10% off. Literally, these savings are insane. So what I want to do is I want to show you some of my new favorite products they have, and that is the zip-up hoodies. I'm in Canada and it's starting to get cold up here, so I need some nice new gear that's going to be comfy and cozy and warm, but also breathable when the streaming room heats up. Now I'm super excited to get my hands on these zip-up hoodies. I got my wife one of the regular hoodies. It's so comfortable. It immediately puts you to sleep when you want to go to sleep, but she won't let me touch it. She's got this beautiful maroon color. She literally won't let me touch it. I really want it. But if you're looking to stand out in a crowd, you're going to have to check out these graphic tees. They are also amazing quality. Again, I wear them in everything that I do now. I got my hands on this Galactic Gamer tee that's probably going to be posted up here next because I just like the way it looks. And there's just always quality product, always getting better. Every single time I visit the site, they blow me away. What are you waiting for? Go check out intotheam.com. There will be a link in the description below and a pinned comment. Use promo code DORKY. Get 30 to 80% off site-wide plus 10% off. This is an amazing opportunity to start getting your Christmas orders done and ready. And there's going to be more sales in the future. I love partnering with Into the AM. Make sure you use that promo code so they know that I sent you. Have a great day, and I'm going to leave you with one of their sayings. Stay inspired. All right, team, so before we jump into talking about the packs and the difficulty, I want to quickly show you the save squads that I now have. It is a little different than the playtest ones, not dramatically different, mind you. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about my experience here and where you could really dump your investments to get the most bang for your buck. So, for Node 1, we're going to do a similar team we used on the playtest. I have Super Scroll in there. He's kind of a cheat code to bypass the World at War Pact. He'll go before the Mr. Negatives and the Taskmasters do a nasty rewind, and you can go from there. I left that 5th slot empty. All I'll say is you want to fill that slot with a hero so that Skrull will get both 2 heroes and 2 villains. Here's the thing, there's a couple interesting characters to prep for future nodes. There's Tigra, so you get ult turn 1 on node 6. There's Gambit, so you get ult turn 1 on, I believe, node 4. And there's also Ronan, who can then use his special on turn 1. So a couple interesting characters there. If you don't have Skrull, who cares? You could throw Nova in there, throw Herbalist in there. Maybe you want to throw a burn attack at that node first to pull the Taskmaster ultimates. You could also do that. And important note, Archangel is the only character we're going to be using on a future node. You want his cooldowns available, but with Apocalypse and Red Hulk, he's generating so much energy that it shouldn't be hard to walk out with him fully cooldowned and fully lifed. The second node, we're going to use Rebirth. Nothing special there. All I would mention is I wish my Captain America was a healer. It's important to have Peggy positioned where she is so that she is eating the adjacent damage and being able to spam her revive and her heal. Then we have our City Villain team. Now, we did have a couple options here. The Underworld team does work great, but I think the indisputable truth is that the City Villain section was made for the Sinister 16. So you don't really need Kraven. So you want to go in, you want to unlock Green Goblin at an earlier difficulty, you want to build him up as quickly as possible, throw a Striker on him so he's doing defense down out there, have Raider on your Vulture and your Mysterio, they don't need the focus, and you're going to be good to go on that section. They absolutely destroy. Black Cat, you're going to have her built up. The Trauma Stun is very nice, especially against the Apocalypse on the second City Villain node. And that's going to be a team. And here's the thing, guys. That team can be used in all the City Villain sections. And take out Black Cat, you could use that in the tech sections too. Now this team will also rip apart those tech sections. Mind you, we have so many options for tech. We're not really in the market. We're not, thirsty for a tech team, but it is there for you. So if you want a team that handle 4 sections, dump your resources into here, especially that Green Goblin. For the Global Blaster, we're going to throw a burn attack to pull the Cersei ultimate. For some reason, it hits like an absolute truck. And then we're going to hit it with this hodgepodge of a team. Sunfire, Gambit, Archangel, Phantom X, and then Ultron. This team was good enough to crawl through both of the blaster nodes, though I couldn't crack the nut on difficulty 9 or 10 with this team. I think if you're in the market to do difficulty 9 or 10, you're going to be using multiple teams. In fact, you'll probably be using some of your rebirth characters on the final hit, maybe trying to keep them alive, or if you just are bypassing that node 10 on the final difficulty, you can throw them in as one of the first attacks and try and get some work done. All right, then we have the tech options, right? So we mentioned a bunch of tech options that we have. You can do full Pegasus team. That's great for the first tech node. I found for the second tech node, I really wanted to lean into Doom Kang, because if you get those 2 Red Hulks to pop up at the same time, that combo when Doom ults and Kang does the 3 turns just obliterates them. On difficulty 8, easy peasy. On difficulty 9, I didn't get that far. Difficulty 9, 10 is basically the same thing. So if you're doing difficulty 10, yeah. Give it a shot. I left that 5th slot blank because what I ended up doing in most of my runs is subbing in Coulson there. And so Coulson was able to rebuild up his cooldowns, and then that was great for node 10, if you're doing node 10, right? If not, throw whatever powerful character you want in there. I mean, you're done with city villains at that point for the second tech node, so you can throw in Vulture, you can throw in Green Goblin, whoever you want. Have fun with it. That tech section is probably the most fun part of the trial. And then for the new Avengers, similar to the Rebirth, we're going to have our Mockingbird adjacent to Tigra. This is to feed into one of the packs we're going to talk about. Second Wind is going to let her spam abilities, is what that comes down to. So this is going to be, let me go ahead and save this here. Let me go ahead and then hit share. And that is going to be the code. I'm hiding it, so you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and copy the import code, and we're going to put that in the comment section of this video. Hope that helps you. Now let's go on over to future dorky, past dorky, whatever dorky, and talk about packs and the difficulty. How's it going, guys? This is going to be like a mega guide for the Goblin trial event. I'm not going to break it down node by node, simply because there seems to be a lot less interest in this trial. I'm going to make this as clean as possible. I'm going to give you some tips that I definitely did pick up that helped me push harder and harder. But the truth of the matter is, there is a nonsensical difficulty jump from difficulty 8 to difficulty 9 that if you don't have a team like Rebirth that can survive the Wakandans on difficulty 9, then you're stuck doing difficulty 8, but you could probably do the majority, if not all, of the packs. And then the difficulty jump from difficulty 9 to 10 is minimal. So if you can do difficulty 9, you might as well be doing 10, okay? Another reason why I think there's a lot less interest in this trial is simply because there was too many niche characters to build up. The traits were way too selective. Adding Rebirth as a necessity was a big mistake. I think that really kind of put the nail in the coffin for a lot of people. But then the city villain section relying heavily on the Sinister 6 characters or the Underworld characters left a bad taste in people's mouth, because that basically feels like they might as well put another trait on that one. Like they might as well put Sinister 6 on that node. And then Global Blaster is an absolute nightmare and people are hating it. So I think people are just trying to get through this trial and they're going to be happy with what they get. And I hope that this guide is going to help you do that. We're going to start by going through the packs, and I'm just going to talk briefly about the impact that some of these have. So the Experimental Serum, if you are one of the people that just wants to settle for top 500, you're probably going to be equipping both of these and every other pack on difficulty 8. We'll see if more than 500 people are going to do that. It's possible that people will try and do difficulty 9, difficulty 10. I probably am not going to be one of them. I'd actually rather settle for a 6 yellow star on this trial. Next Generation, so newer characters gain the Rebirth trait. That's very ineffective. And then Young Avengers gaining the Heroes for Hire trait. That is very effective on that last node. Now, the Young Avenger characters like Squirrel Girl and Kate Bishop, their passives will not proc when Heroes for Hire members drop, but they are going to be getting a bunch of buffs and a bunch of stats from the Heroes for Hire team, the passives that the Heroes for Hire give to the Young Avengers. So we're going to equip that one so we can show how it functions in-game. On spawn, Pegasus characters are gaining the new Avengers trait. That's highly ineffective. And then Hydra characters gaining the Masters of Evil trait. There is the, I believe it's the final Global Blaster node? Yeah, it's the final Global Blaster node. Where this will play into account, especially if you're trying to do that difficulty 10 I kind of alluded to earlier. But I'm going to equip it so you can see what it looks like in practice. Snake Eyes. On spawn, player characters gain increased critical hit chance, and enemy characters gain increased critical hit damage. This is a really tough one for that node 2 Wakanda node. So if you're struggling there, this might be the first one you want to take off. It's of course a double-edged sword. So if you're in the market to just do reset city and hit that node over and over and over again until you get the right RNG, then it is probably a good idea. It's also going to help you with the global blaster node, right? So it's, again, big double-edged sword. Power dynamics: on turn, characters remove all positive effects and heal for 10% max health. This is going to hurt you in the rebirth node, but it's going to help you a lot in that global blaster node. And most of the other nodes are, for the most part, unaffected. The Sinister 6, they seem to keep their buffs for whatever reason. I'm not sure if that's a bug or just a visual issue. And then the new Avengers, they don't seem to mind too much either. And of course, you're getting just huge health pools. Now this, on difficulty 10, I haven't actually tried with this one yet. I assume this would make the enemies much more difficult to kill and could lead into some balancing problems. You're going to need to have some diamonds on your characters. Second wind: when any character drops to 50% health, generate 2 ability energy for themselves. Now this is just a straight buff for you, basically. Yes, it affects the enemies, but it's going to help you way more. Again, I'm thinking about that node too. Your Peggy Carter getting ability energy every time she drops to 50% life will allow her to spam her ultimate, spam her res on the special, and that's going to be really important. So you're definitely going to want to have that one equipped. Warp World: when any character drops to 50% health, characters on the opposing side flip negative status effects to positive, and their allies' character flip positive effects to negative. Again, a huge double-edged sword. If you are one of those players that is in a weird spot where difficulty 8 is too easy but difficulty 9 is too hard, then Warp World is going to be a benefit to you on difficulty 8. And on difficulty 9 or 10, it does seem to be a little bit impossible. And then World at War: all war abilities are active during this run. If you're doing difficulty 8, this is really powerful. It's going to help you, but those Wakandans are going to hit a lot harder, right? So you're going to need a decent sized rebirth. But if you're doing difficulty 10, this is nearly a death sentence for most rebirth characters. I know we focus a lot on that second node, and that's because it's the first node that's going to stonewall you, but the other nodes are also very difficult. And I'm going to have more tips on how to deal with them going from node to node than the rebirth node, which is just reset till you get what you want to get. All right, so that's it for our difficulty and pact talk. Now let's go ahead and get to some node action. All right, so let's start with node number 1. Now, I do have a team that I like to bring in here. It's not the new Avengers. I kind of like to go in with this team right here. Not Braun, sorry. Braun, he does not actually get the speed up because there's a black cat on the node. I like to go in with this team. Obviously, not everyone has Skrull. Not everyone has a big boy Apocalypse, so everyone should have a small Apocalypse at that point. And the only leftover character you're going to use on the next node is going to be Archangel, so we only have to worry about one character's cooldown staying up. For the purpose of this guide, I'll actually go ahead, I'll take Skrull off, I'll throw Morgan Le Fay on. That's just another character that we're not going to be able to use later anyway, and we'll go in like this. So, for this node, the reason we really want to bring Archangel, even though we need him on a future node, is because of his turn meter rewind. Now, we got to take a bunch of hits here, and that's going to be really tough if we don't have Skrull. Skrull will go first and rewind everybody. So, if you're trying to do difficulty 10 and you don't have Super Skrull, I suggest doing a burn attack on this node. Pull those Mr. Negative, you have to do a couple burn attacks. Pull the Mr. Negative ultimates and pull the Taskmaster ultimates and go from there. But once you get control, we're going to go ahead and we'll throw the Morgan ultimate. That's going to put ability block on these Mr. Negatives. It's going to kill those summons from Mr. Negative, but Archangel doesn't mind that, right? He's going to go ahead and use his passive to rewind people and do a bunch of damage. We'll then focus down this right side. We get rid of the Black Cat, and now it's Apocalypse's turn. He'll throw his ultimate, and we're going to Falcon Punch out the Rogue. If you are having a hard time, it's probably because Rogue is getting her taunt up, and that is causing issues. So now we're going to start saving our Archangel abilities. Let's just use the basic here. We're coming down to the last 5 enemies, right? We want to be careful with that. And every other character, we could just let it fly. So once again, make sure you're leaving this node with Archangel, everything available, but all the other characters, let it fly. So that's not a very difficult node. Start with the Taskmasters, then the Black Cat, then the Rogue, and the rest of the node will melt. For node 2, I think positioning is one of the biggest things, especially if your Rebirth team is struggling. What I like to do is put US Agent in the middle, Winter Soldier in a corner, Peggy in the back left, Agent Venom on the far right, and then Captain America adjacent to Peggy Carter. The reason I like to do this is because Peggy Carter will eat a bunch of splash damage, she'll get pushed to 50% more often, and this will result in her spamming her abilities. Now that was true for difficulty 9, difficulty 10, because I have a nearly 1.8 million rebirth team, so I was pushing that. On difficulty 8, I would be surprised if we actually get our Peggy to drop more often than once, maybe. So you see the Wakandans, they get a whack load of turns, but once their turns are done, we want to focus down, oddly enough, the Okoyes. So we're going to go Okoyes first, then we're going to go Black Panther 1 million, and then we're going to go Nakia. Those characters seem to have the most scary mechanics, right? The Okoye assists are very annoying, and then the Nakia and Black Panther 1 million second turns are very scary. So we're going to go ahead and we'll throw the U.S. Agent Special. It's going to be an ability block. We're targeting the Okoyes because we do have Skirmisher and we want to get rid of that defense up. Next, we'll throw a bunch of debuffs on Okoye. Unfortunately, because it is a lower difficulty than my team should be doing, it's going to one-shot. After that, we see that we have our Agent Venom ultimate. He got energy from Captain America. This is very, very helpful, but let's pretend it didn't happen. Although it is Scourged, you could just keep resetting until you get it. I'm instead going to go ahead and use my special on the Okoye, and that's going to get rid of her. With a more reasonable team, it's likely that you're going to be just kind of getting her to 50% or a little bit lower, and then you'll have to finish her off with a subsequent attack. Alright, now let's get some controlling effects over on that Black Panther 1 million. We don't want him to do his special. We're able to do yet another special from our US agent because of the energy once again from Captain America. We'll throw the shield. That's going to give our captain a bunch of speed. And then I'll throw the ultimate. Remember, there is no raid rules pact, unfortunately. So we are stuck with no stun from Bucky Barnes. U.S. Agent now, or sorry, Agent Venom can now ultimate. He would have been able to do that no matter what because that was his second turn. And we're able to take out the Shuri and the Black Panther 1 million. But Nakia is now in stealth, unfortunately. We'll try and get her out of stealth, or we'll try and get her down with splash damage. Looks like the U.S. agent got her out of stealth. Now we just got to get off of these tanks, and we can get back to her. Remember, the Red Guardians, they just need to drop below 50% life, and they will drop their own taunts. And once Nakia is gone, I'll turn my attention to the Killmongers and the Yelena. They do quite a bit of damage. Luckily for us, we do have just crazy blocking characters, right? That is the obvious strength of the Rebirth team. They're really, really good at blocking. So I'll take the Nakia out. And now I'll look to the Yelena. She's super squishy compared to the Killmongers, so we'll start with her. And I'm actually going to use the basic. It'll do a chain attack, give some defense down. We don't always need to spam abilities with our Agent Venom. So you see that blocks really does stop a lot of the damage from the Killmonger. And because we're getting offense up on our team and we have the packed power dynamics, our team is just naturally healing up a lot. Unless that happens and we get our buffs flipped. Alright, let's get working back on the Killmonger over here since he's nice and low. And this should take him out even with the offense down. There we go. So once the next wave drops in, I'll turn my attention to that Black Panther. The Captain Marvel, though appearing scary, isn't very... she's not a big threat to us here. Alright, back to the Killmonger. So the last 5 enemies, if we are walking through the node very easy like we are right now, we probably want to start preserving some cooldowns in case we need to use this team as a cleanup on node 10. Node 10 is quite difficult, even with a very built up new Avengers, as we'll see a little bit later on in the video. And I do not want to use the Agent Venom ultimate here either. We might need him either for node 10 or for the Global Blaster node. If you have your big Agent Venom you built up for this node, he could double up for that Global Blaster and help you get through it. Alright, we're still saving abilities, but we're working down the Killmonger. There he goes. And now I'll actually turn my attention to Shuri because she does have that second chance where she's getting a bunch of ability energy because she dropped below. We just don't want her to do a nasty heal on us. Winter Soldier, like Agent Venom, could be used in the Global Blaster section, so consider saving some of his abilities as well. And that's going to round it up for this guy. So you just really have to survive that opening Wakanda burst. That is the scariest part of this node by far. And once you're in control of the node, you can try and snowball your way to the end, just making sure you're taking out those very dangerous characters who are going to flip your buffs if you have Warp World, or who can get a one-shot on your US Agent, your Agent Venom, or your Winter Soldier. Peggy and Captain America, for the most part, people have built up higher because they're more durable characters. All right, let's head on over to node 3. All right, for the city villain section, there's a couple team selections that you could have, right? We could use our newly acquired Green Goblin with Doc Ock, Vulture, and Mysterio. That's 2 Superior 6 members, so their war buffs are activated. That's very helpful. And of course, they're in Black Cat because he's super strong. Or if you don't have Sinister 6 built up, but you do have your Underworld built up, we can throw in Mr. Negative, and we could throw in Kingpin. Maybe we didn't unlock Green Goblin ahead of time. We can throw Vulture back in. But unfortunately, these are some of the issues that people are coming across, right? They didn't want to build up Sinister 6 characters. They only want to build up Superior 6 members. And they don't want to build up Underworld because Underworld, though a great war team, is starting to fall off. And this is one of the concerns people had with the trial. But I'm going to use this team because I do think this is the best team. And I think this is going to be the longest shelf life team. I think Sinister 6 in war will outlast Underworld in war. And I do think these members might see some play in Crucible, given some of the changes that we've seen to Mysterio's kit. Right now, he is active in Crucible. Vulture is active everywhere as long as he's on offense. So I think these characters are the most interesting. And of course, Black Cat's great. Green Goblin is going to be great. And we have Doc Ock as well. So this first node is a lot easier than the second city villain node. So you want to make sure that you're taking your time and you're getting through this node without crippling yourself for the future. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to start by taking out the 2099 and the Noir because they dodge less, right? So my opening attack was to put slow on 2099, and now I'm going to put stun on Noir. The reason we shift focus to Noir, and he actually just died, is because we're about to do the Doc Octopus special, and that's going to give us a bunch of buffs. We don't want to give Noir needless speed bar if we're doing a more reasonable matchup power, right? Now, I also don't want to do the ultimate from Green Goblin just yet. I think that's a bit early. It's a long cooldown. I'm probably going to be saving that for the second city villain node. If you are struggling to get through this node and it's taking a bunch of turns, then you could consider using it. It's going to completely rewind the enemy team. It's a devastating ability. It's going to do a bunch of damage, and it'll put trauma out on the enemy. All right, I will actually do this ability, though. So I'm going to target the 2099. Once again, we want to stop him from using his ultimate on us. We don't want all those nasty debuffs. This is going to do ability block plus blind on the entire team, unless they dodge, because of those war buffs. Now, because 2099 is controlled, we'll turn our attention back to Noir, because we know that we're going to be getting a lot of buffs from our Sinister 6 characters. And of course, Vulture does amazing work with that speed bar he's gaining when we're dropping enemies low, so he is spamming his turns. Now, one thing I'll mention is if you're doing a pretty big punch down like you see I'm doing here, if you're just settling for difficulty 8 and you have a really big team, you might want to consider slowing it down. So I'm not going to use the Shocker Ultimate. I'm not going to use the Vulture Special because I need those attacks for the next city villain section, and I don't want to have to bring those characters into the tech nodes if I can help it. But that is an option. We could slow it down. We could bring them into a future node, get their abilities back. I would just prefer not to do that. We have enough tech options that we don't need to rely on our Sinister 6 members who happen to be tech until maybe the last tech node. All right, but now we do have Weaver in play and we have Black Cat as well. I'm going to go ahead and use a Black Cat, my Black Cat, basic on the Weaver. That does a turn meter rewind to her and it gives her slow. After that, I'm going to use my dupes to attack the enemy Black Cat. And now I can actually use my Mysterio special to blind and put ability block on the Weaver. That makes her effectively useless. She's going to be stuck doing her basic unless she flips, unless we get a flip, right, from Warp World. So now that we have that done, I'm going to turn my attention to this Black Cat. Now, I do know that my Vulture is ready for his cooldowns, Green Goblin is ready for his cooldowns, Doc Ock is ready, and Black Cat is ready as well, so I'm more comfortable letting this Shocker ultimate fly. And you see, it does tremendous amounts of damage. So if you have a big Doc Ock, you will enjoy the benefits of that giant attack. But don't use your Shocker ability. I'm serious. You really, really, really want to have that Shocker special, or sorry, the Vulture special ready for the following node. So that Spider Weaver is going to bleed out. Let's turn our attention to this Ghost Spider. If you're doing the higher difficulties and you're trying to get through it, you're going to definitely want to get a blind on Ghost Spider. Those retaliates will absolutely crush you, activating Warp World if you happen to have that equipped as well, which is a nightmare. In fact, if you're doing difficulty 10, I think Warp World is just a no-go. All right, let's get through it. Just one enemy left. We see Mysterio is going to have all of his cooldowns available now. A nice rewind on that Scarlet Spider. Green Goblin is completely ready as well. And Vulture's ready. Perfect. So this was a great setup. So once again, get rid of those Tangled Web members, especially the second 2099. You don't want him on the field when the enemy Weaver pops. If he happens to be lining up his ultimate as soon as she drops in, that's going to give you a headache. Mind you, I think you'd still get through the node, just not as convincingly. Alright, so after the burn attack, this is the team I like to go in with. We have Sunfire, Gambit, Phantom Mex, Archangel, and Ultron. Now here's the thing, guys, if you are one of those characters that's pushing difficulty 10, you're going to be doing multiple teams on this one node to dogpile it down. You're not going to do the next Global Blaster node. You're still going to have an amazing score. But this is the team that I like to take in after doing one burn attack. A couple things we need to be mindful of here is because we're doing difficulty 8, it's very likely that our Archangel would get a one-shot kill on some of these characters. And that's not necessarily a good thing because then Minerva can bring them back. So you might want to turn your attention with Minerva to take out her immediately and stop that revive threat. If you're doing a higher difficulty, I actually suggest using this on Corvus. It won't be enough to kill him, but it will be enough to put you in a Warp World situation if you have that equipped. So Corvus is going to use his ultimate, but he has offense down, so our Ultron bots will survive. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to use the ultimate from Sunfire. We don't want to do special into ultimate because then we're wasting a free ultimate, right? And once that Minerva is gone, we're going to turn our attention onto the Cersei as quickly as possible. We will use the speed up from the bot, but then we're not going to use the other bot's abilities unless we absolutely have to. Now, we don't need to heal here, so I use the basic that is going to give my Ultron some energy, helping him reach that second summon a lot faster. We're still working down this Cersei. That should activate her passive. Actually, it looks like Archangel took her out. Now, if you're doing a higher difficulty, that is a lot harder to get finished than what you saw there. Next, I'm going to turn my attention to the Star-Lord Annihilation. Even with offense down, he has some super annoying mechanics that are very scary. So we're going to go ahead and start working him down. All while keeping an eye on Ebony Maw. If Ebony Maw drops to 50%, then we're going to need to turn and control him as quickly as possible because that ultimate he does is very bad for us. So now we get to do our second Sunfire ultimate. We're still targeting down, and we see Ebony Maw did get dropped. So we're going to need to turn and finish him off. We don't want that turn meter rewind to get us. And again, I'll do the basic here. We're not going to risk the bleed out. And now we'll get this Star-Lord Annihilation out of the way. All the while, Archangel passives are definitely carrying us. I see I have a turn meter rewind. It looks like Proxima's about to take a turn. Let's make sure we stop that in its tracks. And now the race is on. We got to take care of this Surfer before he gets to pop off. I'd love to steal his defense up if possible. Looks like it's not. Instead, we'll use our Gambit special on him. There's no ability block because we don't have charges anymore. But in a perfect world, we'll drop this Corvus, and that's going to flip the offense up into offense down on the Silver Surfer. And although he's going to put an ability block on somebody, although it's going to be very damaging, we're not going to die to it, and that's very important. Remember that if you have blind, you're not going to be able to land that ultimate. Instead, use the special from Archangel. He's going to be getting a lot of energy if you're doing a reasonable difficulty because he does give himself energy on his passive. Once again, I could rewind somebody or I can give my team speed up. We're going to go for the speed up just to get us a little bit closer. we see Ultron is 1 turn away from his robots, and that's going to be very important because we might need to bring him in on the tech node so that he can actually open that final Global Blaster node with his ultimate if you are doing difficulty 8 and you're doing all of the nodes. And that's exactly what happened. Ultron is still 1 turn away from his bots, so we're going to bring him in on the following node and prep that. So that node is very difficult. You want to balance taking out that Minerva early, not getting one shot by the Corvus Glaive, and controlling and taking out that Cersei. Her ultimate has insane damage on it for some reason, and if that pops you, it's going to be an issue. And once you deal with that, you want to take care of those Ebony Maws. A rewind could be just devastating, right? I think it's 20% rewind, but then you also get 2 turns of slow. Now, you could flip that using Warp World, but if your characters are far from taking their turn, the enemy's just going to run a train on you, and that can be very bad. So now that we have tech, I am going to bring in Ultron. I'm not going to bring in Vulture because his cooldowns are ready. I'm not going to bring in Doom because we're going to need Doom on the next tech node. Instead, I'm going to grab some other tech characters. Now, we could use our Pegasus characters are really good for this node as well. If you have them built up whatsoever, they're going to be fantastic. I'll even grab Rescue over Kang here just to prove the point. And we're not going to have an issue. There is no raid room rules, unfortunately, so they are a little bit slow to pop off. But once they get going, they do not stop. First thing I like to do is take out these Cyclops. We don't want them to eventually start ulting us. That would be really bad for us. So I'm going to use that Kestrel special, and everyone has a big Kestrel, so you're going to really kind of walk through this node nicely. This is the whole reason we brought Ultron in, so that he could still have his special in the next one. And now we'll put an ability block on the Dazzler. And the big issue we have with prepping Ultron is he left the last node with 100% life, right? He needs to leave this node with 100% life too. And that could be another reason you bring the Ultron in. If he's not 100% life and you want to make sure he has that revive heading into the future Global Blaster node, this could be yet another reason to bring in Ultron. Alright, so this is the first wave down. And now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to let the Iron Man Infinity War Ultimate fly. That puts defense down on everybody. I'll use the special from our Darkhawk. And that's going to lead to a bunch of deaths. And what I would warn you about here is that these death pools are very, very difficult to deal with. But if the Dad Bros start popping off, that's even worse. So what I'll do is I'm going to take out this Beast character real quick. And then I'm going to go for the long shot. Now, the reason we go for the long shot and not the Shatterstar, even though Shatterstar was in a clump and could have led the chain attacks, is because the long shot is the character that activates the speed bar mechanics. So once he's taken out of the equation, at least we're not going to get comboed down by the Dad Bros too quickly. And now we'll take out the Shatterstar and we'll take out that Death Pool. Death Pool already did her ultimate, so if she does another attack, it's actually going to spread that blind to us, as well as all her other debuffs, while doing percentile damage, so we don't want that to happen, right? Kind of a little bit of a race there at that point. I'd be interested in trying this node on a higher difficulty, where my characters aren't just obliterating them, but we'll see if I can get there during this trial. Alright, for node number 6, we're going to be using our new Avengers team, and like with Rebirth on node 2, I like to put my healer, Mockingbird, beside the tank, Tigra. The reason for that is if Mockingbird gets dropped low, she's going to get energy, and she'll be able to use more of her abilities to keep our characters nice and alive. Now, the interesting thing to note here is that these Spider-Man big times don't have the T4 in their passive, so we're not too afraid of their ultimate. Though if we're bouncing them back and forth, because they are squishy characters, they'll be doing the ultimate, getting the dodge from the, I think it's stealth mode, and then that could be a nightmare where we just get locked into kind of an endless combo with them while trying to save other cooldowns. So we don't want to leave them to the end, but we don't want to start with them either. Instead, we'll start with these Yellow Jackets. We don't like that percentile damage that they do on their ultimate and on their special, because this is war, and they are in defense with the Spider-Man big time. So we start with the Yellow Jackets. I'll even use a Thing Punch on one. We'll Mockingbird special. We like the chain damage it does. Looks like that Yellow Jacket is going to bleed out, but again, we never want to risk things. So we'll throw the ultimate. This is going to get one of the big times in trouble. You see that nasty dodge. Now he's got a bunch of energy. He will cycle through to his ultimate faster than we are accustomed to. Alright, so now that the Ant-Mans are out of the way, that would have been the killer, by the way. It would have been Yellow Jackets into Ant-Mans to stop the assists. We'll go ahead and we'll take out one of these Spider-Man big times. I'll actually go for the second Spider-Man Big Time so that we can land the stun on him with the Ronin special. There you go. We did a lot of damage to the swarms, which is nice, but we didn't get that other Big Time who was ready to bleed out. Now this is really important. It doesn't matter if you killed one member and now there's 7 members or 8 enemies on the field right now. You don't want to do the Tigra ultimate. You need to save that ultimate for the final node. And unless you get into a back and forth where Tigra is losing her health at a crazy pace, then you're not going to be able to recoup that ultimate. And if you are doing that, then your Tigra may not enter the next node healthy, which is something that we need. So we'll start taking down these swarms. You could get into a nasty dodge fight with these enemy characters. Not fun, but we need to save some of our cooldowns. We see one swarm is about to die. I'll basic this one. And then I will basic this next swarm as well. And so what we have here is we have a lot of the enemy damage dealers on Death's Door, which is fantastic. But remember that Black Widow's special will cleanse infestation members, so we're going to keep on the swarms and we're going to take him out. So Black Widow's opening attack doesn't actually do any damage, which is nice. We're then going to try and take out the Ant-Man. Ant-Man doesn't dodge like Ghost Spider does, so we're just not fueling that enemy's fire. And then we'll start taking out these Black Widows. Now, if you're doing a higher difficulty, this is going to be a much more difficult node. However, if you're doing a higher difficulty, this is the only node you're going to do. I don't think you're going to bother with node 10 because it's so crazy. So you will be able to let your abilities fly. But for us, doing difficulty 8, and if you're trying to just do difficulty 7, and you're trying to push all the nodes, make sure you save that Tigra ultimate, as you see I have done here. So that's it, guys. Kill the Spider-Man Big Time, but not as the first priority. Take out those Yellow Jackets, take out the assisting members, then the Spider-Man Big Time, then the swarms, because they are very dangerous, then the Black Widows, and the rest of the characters. Heading into the second city villain node, we're going to be using the exact same team. One reason we don't want to suggest building about the characters. The other reason is because we do have Green Goblin. We now have 2 superior 6 members on our team. And so all of the war benefits from Mysterio and Vulture are now live. We have Black Cat ready. She's ready to go. This is great. She's obviously going to be super built for you. It's an amazing Secret Defender team. And she'll be instrumental in stopping the apocalypse in the final wave. So, first things first, we're going to do the Vulture special on the Doctor Strange in the middle. This gives 2 turns of ability block, of slow, and that's going to be helpful in just kind of ignoring these Stranges for now. We'll use the Black Cat ultimate targeting the Morgan. This is going to push her nice and low. It'll flip anything that doesn't have trauma on it. And now that the Doctor Stranges have taken their turn, we'll turn our attention to them. You don't want to be attacking those Stranges before they do their first attack, because again, if they drop below 50% life, we have second wind on, they can alt turn 1, and that would be really, really bad for us. So I use my Goblin basic here on the Strange. We knew that it was going to take the Morgan out. We'll now summon in our Shocker, get him ready to do his job. So we just had given Strife energy. Now that's good and bad. It means he's not going to taunt, but it means he will use his ultimate, which is a nasty ability blocking quite a bit of damage. Looks like the ability block mostly was resisted. That's fantastic. Let's finish off this Strange. And we'll go for the next Strange. Now he does have slow, so the race is on to take him out before he does his ultimate. We did just give him energy. And there you go. Vulture is a very, very powerful character. And now it's time we take care of this Magneto. We do not want to get blind, but we do not want to use our Black Cat special. We're saving that for the apocalypse in the final wave. So now is a great time to let loose the Green Goblin ultimate. It's going to put trauma on the enemy as well as just a bunch of damage and a turn meter rewind, which is going to help us kind of carry our Black Cat and our Mysterio abilities into that final wave. I'll go ahead and I'll throw the ultimate from Doc Ock as well, just to erase this wave. And we'll start turning our attention to the Archangel. We want him gone before the apocalypse comes in, as well as that Rogue. So Archangel first. We'll use 1 dupe, just take that defense up off of Rogue. And now that Archangel is gone, I'm actually going to put slow on Rogue with Black Cat first. Nice little turn meter rewind as well. We can start worrying about this wave. Now you notice there's 7 enemies remaining, 6 are on the field, which means Apocalypse is going to drop on the next kill. I'm going to use the Vulture ultimate here. Because it does a nice turn meter rewind, it's going to do a bunch of damage, and now my Vulture is going to be ready to do his special when the Apocalypse comes in. Now we had loaded turn bars, we're going to do a couple bits of more damage. And now it's time to go in on the Apocalypse. This is why we save our abilities from Black Cat and Mysterio. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put Disrupt on Apocalypse. Oh, but it was resisted. I guess 100,000 focus is not enough for his 200% extra resistance. Let's do the turn meter rewind on the Apocalypse. And now the Black Cat will be able to stun, assuming that Apocalypse lives. Theoretically, Black Cat was going to be stunning the Apocalypse here, but because difficulty 8 is a joke and difficulty 9 and 10 are more difficult, I'm giving you the strategy for difficulty 10. We saved the Black Cat special for too long, but on a harder difficulty, we would have wanted that Black Cat special into the Apocalypse. Alright, so that's going to be it for the City Villain characters. Now we can actually use them in future tech nodes, if given the choice. Alright, for the second Global Blaster node, we're going to be going in with our same team as before, but if you don't have many of these characters left alive, you could consider using your Agent Venom, your Winter Soldier, depending on their build. Yellow Jacket is a fantastic character with nice percentile damage, and your Dark Hawk is great. And don't forget, you do have some Bionic Avengers as well that you probably have built up from their use in Raid to the point where they can at least help you get going here, and then let Gambit and Archangel take over. So, let's get in, and let's start this fight. This is an interesting one. Luckily for us, Zemo drops in the second last wave and Kang drops in the last wave. So there's not too big of a speed threat here besides the Moonstone, who will do a defense down on us, but there's no stun on her opening ability. So we'll start with the Archangel Ultimate. If this pushes the Absorbing Man to yellow, then it'll flip the other Absorbing Man. Unfortunately not to be, but Gambit will finish it off. So now we only got to deal with the one taunt. Now, it's going to be very, very tempting here to let the Gambit Ultimate fly because we didn't get to use it in the last node, but you're going to want to hold on to that for a little bit. Let's get these Ultron bots up. And the Gambit pings are just doing their job. We love that. Archangel's following it up. Now, unfortunately for us, we are still one turn away from our second Sunfire special. Now, that'll help us erase the second wave here. But I would have preferred to use it there. Alright, let's get these buffs off of Zemo. And then we could use the special on Zemo here. It might take out that Winter Soldier in the back as well. Not quite enough damage. It was enough to activate Warp World though. And now I'll throw the ultimate. We got defense down on everybody except that Absorbing Man. This should do a whack load of damage, summoning in that final Kang and Red Skull. And what we're going to do is we're going to stay the course on this Titanias while peppering down the Red Skull with our splash damage, our AoE damage, and then a big nuke from the first character that gets the shot, which is going to be our Archangel, who's been building up energy this whole time. Now, if your Archangel is not strong enough to one-shot this Kang, then you might consider doing a couple earlier attacks on him. You see, mine wasn't quite strong enough to get it done, but definitely got him close enough to the point where I can go ahead and throw the Ultron Ultimate, and then we're just eating cake on this one. We're going to use the rewind on the characters that have the most speed bar. And then we have the indiscriminate Archangel rewinds as well. And there you go. So this node, not nearly as difficult as the first Global Blaster node, but on harder difficulties, I assume those Crossbones ultimates would be devastating. But I don't think people will be doing this node on difficulty 10. If you're pushing for that top 50, I think this node is where you're going to be stopped. For the second tech node, I'm actually going to be using a pretty niche team. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I need my Coulson to get some more abilities up, because we did use his cooldowns pretty deep into that new Avengers node. But you have a bunch of options here. In fact, you do not need to one-shot this node. It can be a very challenging node. So if you want to whittle it down, you can consider using your 4-piece City Villain team. That's going to be your Vulture, Doc Ock, Mysterio, Green Goblin. You could sub in a bunch of fun characters. You could throw in Kang, Kestrel, Doom, Big Time Spider-Man, Lady Deathstrike, Ultron if he's still alive, Shuri for extra energy, or you can go ahead and throw in a Shocker, and then you will summon in Rhino. He's not going to stop the Red Hulk from getting charges, but it's still a little fun thing that you could do. Or you could throw in your Pegasus team like we did on the first node. I'm going to use this team here. We got Kang, Rescue, Doom, Kestrel, and Coulson. But yeah, feel free to use any of those teams. Whittle the node down if that's what you want to do. I don't really think the efficiency is going to be bothered by too much. So the biggest threat on this team is going to be Deathlock to start. So we're going to throw all our attention at him. Looks like we got a crit on that Iron Man, so he was felled there. We want to use our Kestrel special on the Hulkbuster, even if he doesn't have the taunt, because we do want to clip the enemy She-Hulk with defense down. And now we want to actually get that She-Hulk down. We don't want to let her get up to 5 charges. And now we're actually going to put slow out with our rescue. We're not going to waste her abilities just yet. So let's get slow on the enemies. We're slow playing it a little bit here because the next enemies that drop in are going to be Deathlock and Red Hulk. Now we do have some concerns with the Red Hulk. We actually want to proc him to do his special early. And the biggest issue would be if it hits our Kang. So let's throw the ultimate. It's going to pop in the second wave. And it did not hit our Kang, so that's fantastic. Our rescue did take a bunch of damage, but that's okay. The next wave is now going to drop in, and we get to use our Doom ultimate here. Now we're going to put one vulnerable on the enemy Red Hulk that just popped in, one vulnerable on the Red Hulk that's been here this whole time, and then we'll throw the ultimate, and you can throw it on whoever you want to give an extra vulnerable to. I'll throw it on this Green Hulk. So Doom Skirmisher is pretty important here. And now it's go time. So it's time for our Kang to take out the enemy T. You see Red Hulk, the first Red Hulk, died immediately. Nothing wrong with that. Kang is starting to work down this next Red Hulk. And there he goes. And now the node is over. So you see the way we did the gimmick was nice. I think we got 2 turns on our Coulson. That's going to help him have his cooldowns at least earlier into the next node. Though I don't think he's going to have them up in the crunch time that we would prefer, like on spawn. I don't think he'll have it available. But that is a way to rebuild your Coulson abilities. Again, feel free to use your Sinister 6 team. Use your Pegasus team. Whittle the node down. Do this gimmick if you want. You do got to be careful that you're not getting nasty turn meter rewinds. You want to be careful your Coulson's not taking damage, which is why he was in the corner. And your Kang, he can't get offense down from the Red Hulk. That's why he's in the other corner. Otherwise, he won't go for the ride. And you don't get to obliterate the Red Hulks like you saw there. All right, let's head into that last node now. Okay, heading into the last node, the new Avengers node, we're going to be leaning on the full team. Now, if you don't think your Coulson is going to have any available abilities, you could consider putting in Captain America. I've heard people say they're doing that, but those people also admittedly don't have Coulson built up at all. A big Coulson with his basic turn meter rewind is also very impactful, and this node is quite long, so it's likely that if you did just re-prep his cooldowns like I did, he will eventually get to do some abilities. So the most important thing to do here is the Tigra ultimate. This is why we didn't use it before. We're going to get trauma and bleeds on all the enemies so that Squirrel Girl can't cleanse it. And it also just does a crazy amount of damage. After that, we want to get a controlling effect on Shang-Chi, but not, I repeat, not the Thing ultimate. Unless you're doing a higher difficulty, I suppose. Or if you think your Thing is going to be flipping around his health bar and getting energy back that way. The reason we don't want to use the Thing ultimate is because we need that for the second Shang-Chi. So use a Mockingbird turn meter rewind. You see, people are just dying by circumstance, unfortunately, a little bit too quickly for my liking. We're going to go ahead and, oops, that was a mistake. I meant to do that on Shang-Chi to get a turn meter rewind on him. The Ronin ultimate does put blind out, so if you don't have Ronin special, the blind will suffice for the first Shang-Chi ability. And if he has trauma, it'll actually affect the second Shang-Chi ability as well. So there you go. Shang-Chi now no longer has charges, so we're going to be able to start taking him out. He is definitely our primary target. We'll save that special for the following wave. Coulson now has his special available. And Shang-Chi is gone. That's perfect. Colleen will be the next kill target. By the way, Shang-Chi was the first kill target there. He just happened to be the last one to die because the rest of the members are so squishy. Once Shang-Chi is gone, we do have to worry about Kate. She will flip buffs. And she's also just going to give offense up to people. It does a bunch of damage. If she reaches her ultimate, because it is war defense, it is a devastating ability. Yes, we're going to be eating a bunch of calling attacks here, but Kate Bishop is definitely the priority kill target. Coulson unfortunately got ability block, but if we could activate Warp World, we'll take that off. and we will do just that. I was about to say, if we just prepped Coulson's, all of his abilities, and he immediately gets ability blocked, that's not very fun. This is just a visual bug. She's not actually jumping up and hitting people with all these debuffs, and if she was, we had immunity everywhere. So don't worry too much about that. I'll throw the Coulson ultimate at this point. Let's peel off some of these charges from the Colleen. Let's get down to this Kate like I said we were going to do. And this is perfect. So now that Shang-Chi has come in, our thing immediately has his turn up. I'm going to go ahead and put the stun with trauma on Shang-Chi. And now I want to push the Shang-Chi so that he's bleeding out all of his charges. Now we don't want him to die because he doesn't have death proof yet, and he has disrupt, so he'll never get death proof. But we do want those charges to start bleeding out. Not yet. You notice I did not do the rebound chain on him because I didn't want him to take too much damage. But this is perfect. So he bled out all his charges. He still has stun. I can look for other people if I wanted to. For safety, I'm actually just going to finish him off. You never want to leave characters at the mercy of bleed, in my opinion. All right, then we'll get some controlling effects out on this Echo and on the Colleen. Tigra died. If I instead dealt with the Echo, then our Tigra wouldn't have died there. But I don't care. We're at the end of the node. We're not going to redo it. This node is a bit of a nightmare, but if you control those two Shang-Chis like we showed, you can get through it relatively easy. Also remember, Ronin's special will leap over people as well. So don't expect it to always hit the adjacent targets. Colleen still has a charge. Let's go ahead and take her out here. She died, which is why she has a blind right now. Ronin applied the blind to her. Now, if you're doing a higher difficulty, your thing's not very strong, I don't think you can rely on that blind. Instead, you rely on this blind from the Ronin himself. All right, guys, and that is going to be our guide for the Goblin trial. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this is not the same professionalism we've done in the past for these videos, but just with the circumstances around this Goblin event and my current life events happening right now, it's very busy around this time of year. This is going to be the best that I can do. We got a new high score. That's kind of cool. This is going to be good for like a 500 run, a top 500, I think, what you just saw here. The top 50, I'm sure people are already doing difficulty 10 because we kind of discussed that in the last video. Yeah, here you go, 3 million. So Stocky has already done difficulty 10. We got Guilty up there. We got Zuthin. I think that's Zubin. So we got a bunch of people already. So the top 7 is still this run you just saw. But this is also the second day of the trial, technically the first day of the trial. So you can expect the top 50 to get bloated with that the top 10 run. I'm not going to be pushing for that. Even if I tried to push for that, it wouldn't make for good content. First of all, it's completely out of touch. But secondly, it's going to be riddled with RNG. So it's not like I can make my guides based on that. Because I know this guide, it was very easy. I couldn't find a nice difficulty for my account where it wasn't trivial and it wasn't riddled with RNG, I guess is the problem. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you check out Into the AM. We love Into the AM merch. Again, we just like everything that they put out. The clothing, it's so comfortable. And in the wintertime, snuggling up by the tree in the fireplace with your wife and kids, or just your significant other, that's the way to go. All right, guys, bye for now. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.